Well, hello everybody. I am really delighted to be able to do something exciting with poetry today, and that is we're going to be playing around with metaphor. It's my favourite tool of trade as a poet, and it sounds like a long word, but it really is a very, very simple thing. All you do as a poet with a metaphor is to liken something, compare something, this something, with that something. For example, I could say a traffic light is blinking eyes. And that's a metaphor, as easy as that. So to use our metaphors and to learn about using them, we're going to begin with a forest. And I'm going to take you on a walk through this gorgeous, gorgeous forest. And I want you to really just let yourself go into it and smell it and hear it, listen to it, and just imagine that path, where that path could take you. And we're getting ready for our very first metaphor. What is the path like? Well, it could be like a ribbon, a snake, a rope, a cord. And think what it does. It slithers and coils and winds and slinks and glides. So this is my metaphor about the path. Remember, I don't say the path is like, because that's a simile and we'll do that some other time. The path is. So what I've said is, the path is a gliding snake that coils and slithers down. I want you to do your metaphor now and do it like this. Here we are, here's a guide, and this will all be on my teaching notes on my blog. So if you don't have time to do it now, that's fine. Just we'll go with the flow of the path, eh? And so the path is, what's the path to you? And what does it do? And there you've made your first perfect little metaphor. Let's continue on our walk. And I think that when we go, I think what is really important too is to try to use colour. When I come back to that path like a gliding snake, I think I'd say maybe a brown snake, just to get people to focus on colour. So now we're walking down and we can hear something flowing, and we know that we're going to come upon a beautiful little creek that's bubbling and babbling and frothing and going on its way down the slight hill that we're going down. Now, what can you see in that creek? I mean, apart from water, of course, but if you imagine the creek, look back from it, what does it seem like to you? Is it a trench or a groove or a path or a trail or a track or a gutter or a cascade? So we're going to say the creek is something or other, and then we're going to say what it does. And I've written down some words for what I'm calling our word wallet. I've written frothy, bubbly, fizzy, foamy, greeny. And so I've said, here's my metaphor for the creek. The creek is a green foaming trail that bubbles and sings to me. So for your creek metaphor, here we go. The creek is, what can it be to you, and what can it do? And try to use those colour words or any describing words you like, or words from my word, I'm calling it a word wallet because I'm going to talk about that right at the end, about how we can keep very powerful words that make us smart and help us with everything, imagination, writing, everything. Let's go on from the creek, and you hear a roaring of something. I bet you can guess what that is. Well, you're quite right. It's a huge waterfall we come across, and we stand there and we're sprinkled with water, and we look up at the wonder of the foaming water as it spumes and fumes and bubbles over the top. And what sound it makes, bellows and roars and booms and reverberates and balls and resounds. So I'm going to read you a little bit of one of my favourite poems on a waterfall. It's by the English poet Robert Southey, and he wrote it when he came home from what was called a cataract, which is a big waterfall, and his kids said, "What was it like, Dad?" And so he wrote this poem. This is a tiny little bit of it, and I love this poem about waterfalls. Robert Southey said, dividing and gliding and sliding and falling and brawling and sprawling and diving and riving and striving and sprinkling and twinkling and wrinkling and sounding and bounding and rounding and bubbling and troubling and doubling and grumbling and rumbling and tumbling and clattering and battering and shattering. And that's just a little bit of his poem that he wrote for his kids about the day he spent at the waterfall. So you can use some of those beautiful words too. And I don't know whether you noticed, but each line that I read had an internal rhyme, but that's something we're going to be doing. It's called assonance. We're going to be doing that another day. So let's now look at the metaphor for the waterfall. Mine says, the waterfall's a wide, silvery sheet that crashes and smashes and roars. So I'd like you now to do your metaphor. The waterfall is, and you tell me what your waterfall does. Could be its sound, but anyway, that will be a beautiful metaphor for our metaphorical walk. And after the waterfall, we're going somewhere much quieter. Let's go on to the beach. We come, no. Oh yes, we come out of the lovely forest, and here we are at a beautiful broad beach. And I wonder what our metaphor is going to be for that. Well, for me, and I did this yesterday, on this lovely lonely beach, I remembered that a poet I loved said a beach is like a slice of melon, or it's like a crescent half moon. But let's look at the image of the yellow, yellow sand. And what is it? It's a great slice of something, isn't it? It's a spread or a span. I'm popping that into my word wallet. And also what it does, well, it curls, it swirls, it hugs, it embraces that water, or it enfolds it. And so this was my metaphor poem. The beach is a golden boomerang that hugs the water's edge. So you think about your beach, and here we are, we're nearly to the end of our metaphor poetry, but what's your beach like? Is it like a slice of melon? I wonder. Or is it like my golden boomerang? And what does it do? Well, I think it does play around with those waves and the sea and the shore and kind of hugs it, or maybe the waves are hugging it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You come up with a lovely metaphor for the beach. What is the beach like to you? And now we've come to the end of our walk. We're going to rest on that lovely warm sand. And guess what? Just for us, like a beautiful thing that happens every day of our lives, but we're there to see it today. The sun is going down, and we know what happens over water when the sun goes down. It's quite a most beautiful... When I was in Western Australia, which is where you see the sun going down into the water, couldn't believe the glory of the sun on the water and the red, scarlet, pinkish, lovely, lovely colours that played. And so I put into my word, in my word wallet now, I want you to look at the sun, and here's a gorgeous picture as I tell you what's in our word wallet here. I call the sun an orb, a globe, a sphere, or a circle. And what does it do? It blazes and it flares and it burns and it glows and it's rosy and pink and blushing. So this is what I wrote for my beach metaphor. The sun is a scarlet fiery orb that sets the spuming waves ablaze. And that's your very last metaphor. Here we are. You write down what the sun is to you and what it does. And there you have a perfect little metaphorical walk from the forest to the sea that becomes your metaphor poem. And I've written mine out, which you'll see on my blog at my Libby Hathorn website. And I hope that you visit there, and then I hope you send me your metaphorical walk poems, because I'd be so glad to receive them. Okay, bye for now.